All right, thanks for staying with us on Beyond 100 Days. We're still speaking on the president's speech with a focus on his promise for a new living wage for Nigerian workers. And we've been speaking with the public affairs analyst and the former president, Nigerian German Business Group, Joe Femi Daguru. He's still with us and he's joining us virtually. Mr. Daguru, just before that break, I was asking you about how you think that the subnational level would look at this and accept this, because bearing in mind that, look, some of the governors have not even implemented the 30,000 naira minimum wage. And what are the challenges at that level in terms of this new living wage that the president is proposing?
You see, there are a lot of things that will contribute to that, because most of these states depends on the contributions made by Abuja, the federal, from the federal purse. So they can generate enough to even maintain themselves. So based on what the federal government gives them monthly to support them, let me use that word, it's what they depend on, and it's not enough. And most of them,
Mr. Femi Daguru, sorry to butt in. We've gotten reports of how, because of the removal of fuel subsidy, there has been increase in federal allocation to states. If you consider that, shouldn't they be able to afford at least, if not a living wage, maybe a fair wage?
Yeah, it should have been at least minimum wage. Let's take it from there, not poverty wage. But the point is this: we have the governance. The cost of governance is too high, and it's one of the things that the people, Nigerians, have been saying. Let's reduce the cost of governance. There's no point for a governor to have maybe 120 special assistants or 60 special assistants, senior special assistants, and all that. There's no point for some ministries to have SUVs, and at the same time you have high-loss pickups and all that. The cost of governance is too high and unnecessary, and wasteful spending. But then we still have to see how to manage that. I believe it's something we should be able to do, but unfortunately, we can't manage that. We can't do that for so many reasons. These governors will continue to give you, and there's nothing anybody can do. The president cannot force them to do anything because they are independent on their own, and the president can only do what he can do. The law does not allow the president to, put them under that pressure that you must pay. No. So the president can only do what he has to do according to the law.
And it is quite disheartening to hear a governor say, look, I will not be able to pay the 30,000 naira minimum wage. When you look at, in light of what you just said, the fact that, look, the high cost of governance, and then with the cost of living today, it should be at least fair wage or minimum wage. But I also want to look at the issues or the demands of the Labour Congress. They are saying that before you even start a conversation on living wage or minimum wage, that all agreements between the Labour and the federal government, including the payment of the monthly 35,000 naira wage award to public servants in local government, state and federal services, must be implemented. They're also saying that a new minimum wage must be negotiated and implemented, that inflation, which is running at 28.20%, must be drastically reduced to the sub-Saharan African regional average of 9.4%. And there is a fourth one where they are also saying that it is unwise, government at all levels should stop the unnecessary, economically unwise and unpatriotic tradition of taking loans, especially when they use this loan to buy, SUVs and all. How realistic are these demands coming from the organized labor?
The organized labor will always come up with all their own demands in the interest of their members. These demands can be made, and it is now for the government or for states, local, and federal government to abide, negotiate, and execute whatever they have agreed upon. I think the issue is this: if you agree with anyone in life that, look, this is what the agreement is, and you sign it, you have to come up and be a man and, make sure you execute the agreement. And if not, people will still, be threatened with a strike and with so many things that we are not, it's not good for the economy. It's not good for this country. So what the labor is demanding for, if that is what they agreed, if that is what the agreement signed, The federal government, state government, and local government should be able to abide by it. And if they cannot, then there must be a reason. Dialogue before it gets to the situation whereby you paralyze the economy, you paralyze the works of the government. And another thing, the point you raised there is this. Not only the labor, the masses, the Nigerians, they feel that, listen, why should we borrow to buy cars? Why should we borrow to, fund the lifestyle of these people? These people are our own people too. And I think they should be able, to see what the masses are going through. But it seems maybe, I don't know, we don't have this feeling for ourselves. So if Mr. President said, look, I feel your pain, I want to do this, why shouldn't all other members of the assemblies and wherever, they have the power to support him and make sure it works? This is collaboration. We should be able to collaborate with the president and say, listen, we understand. Those people in the State House of Assembly, in the local government, and at the federal level, the reps and the senators, to say, look, we understand this, we are ready. But whereby people increase their own benefits, increase their own allowances, and they're not ready to pay what they agreed upon. What do you expect? People will go angry. That is where we are. It is not just about the president. It's about other organs of the government. And that is what these organs, they have to support. They have to collaborate. It's not by saying, I assure you, I assure you. If you assure the people, practice what you say. Go ahead and support the government. Go ahead and support the president. Because he cannot do it alone. And that is what the masses are demanding. And I think what the masses are demanding is quite straightforward. It's quite straightforward. We can move.
This conversation was what you're talking about was raised recently as Nigerians on social media were examining the different state budgets. And, they saw how it's for some items, it was just so high in terms of cost of governance. And they were wondering why, you would need billions of naira for this particular item just for feeding in a year. And for them, it was unrealistic. And then, that governor would say, I cannot pay minimum wage if you're already spending billions of naira, on your own welfare. And so in the light of that, and in the light of what you said earlier about how, look, it's up to the governors, the federal government cannot force them because of that independence. This demand coming from the organized labor saying that 35,000 naira wage award to public servants must be implemented at the state and local government level before a conversation on a new minimum wage. It would then look, maybe that new minimum wage will not be passed because that conversation would never be had because it doesn't look like the body language of the governors. They never even promised that 35,000 wage award in the first place.
Yes, you see, that's what I'm saying. It's still the same thing. It seems as if most of us don't really take the labor so serious, and then it seems as if, the worst is they go on strike, and by the time 2 or 3 weeks, they are tired, they'll go back to work. That's the kind of feeling that people have in mind. And it's just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. I think we should be our brothers' keepers, and we should be able to, sometimes when you see people in this committee, they have committee meetings, they have peanuts, they have sweets, they have everywhere littered with biscuits and everything. You begin to wonder, what kind of society are we? And you see, they are talking, they are eating, why? And you have, you earmark money for such things, So can't we just, take off all these things, even if it's for 6 months, so that the people will know that you are part of us? It seems as if once you get there, you are no longer part of Nigeria. This is Nigeria. This is the sweat of the people. And you see, most times when they put the blame on the president, they know that it's not only the president, but because he is the president, he has to solve the problem. That's the issue. What else? You expect the senators to understand this. You expect the rep, the local governments and the councillors and everybody. It's so sad. And when people see this, look at in some local government, you have councillors who have never worked anywhere, who have never bought a car in their life. And then they get there, the next thing you see them driving, big cars all around. Then you wonder, so this thing is boiling in the minds of the people. So most of these kind of, punches the government, the federal government or the president is receiving is not because of him as being Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the president. No, it's because of all other things from the local government to state and to other areas. So we have to begin to, tell ourselves the truth and possibly appeal to the minds of our people that, listen, this is not the time for this. This is not what we should do. We promised them. We will say renew their hopes. Then if we renew their hope, is it what are we going to offer them? Let them begin to, breathe like what he said. The people should breathe, but they are not breathing. And that is what is concerning the people, that we are no longer breathing. So the president has a lot on his hand to do, honestly speaking. He has a lot to do. And that is why I said earlier in one of the interviews that the budget has to be performance-based. If you can't work with this government, if you can't bring up your performance from now on, please. And then we should be looking at the budgets of the states and the local government as well. What have they budgeted? Are they complying with it? This is not the job of Mr. President to do, but the citizens as well should be able to monitor what their local governments chairmen are doing and what their governors are doing. And they should be able to raise their voice, because it shouldn't be only the federal that we're raising their voice on. So we have to educate the people.
And let's talk about, because, you've talked about allowing the people breathe. I mean, we've not even talked about the private sector. That's a whole, other conversation. There are people in the private sector who receive as low as 15,000, and it will be shocking to a lot of people, but there are people who receive that amount of money in these times where, the cost of living is really high. Would the president have to make some concession? I know the VAT, I think it was the VAT on diesel that was removed earlier, in the light of the fuel subsidy, trying to cushion the effect. Does more need to be done to enable the private sector also live up or be able to pay that minimum wage?
Basically, we have to engage the private sector, because if the gentleman who runs a company with about 4 or 5 people cannot even come up with a profit at the end of the month, he can afford to tell these 4 or 5 people and tell them, listen, go away, go back, because there's no law binding him to pay anything what he cannot even afford. I know a couple of friends that are shutting down. I know a gentleman who is even well known in this society. He's over 80. And he said it's so painful that he has to close down his business by February. That what he has labored all his life to do for something years, he has to shut it down. So you have a lot of stories like that. So I think the federal government, they have to engage the private sector. Honestly speaking, not only the giant ones. We are not talking about the trillion naira making organizations. They have to look at the small and medium scale entrepreneurs as well. When they say they are going to give loans, they are going to improve and they are going to do a lot of things, incentives have not been given to most of these small and medium scale entrepreneurs. So the incentives in terms of taxes. And lately, when I had that, they are going to, if you don't pay a certain amount of money, maybe the annual returns, you are going to close the companies, you are going to deregister them. I said, that is not the way. You don't deregister them. Maybe you just give them a flat rate, maybe 3,000 or 5,000.
I guess that speaks to the harmonization of policies, because the president is saying one thing on one hand in terms of macroeconomic stability, and then, his appointees are saying something different. We hope that there is that harmonization of policies across board.
That's it.
Thank you so much for talking to us, public affairs analyst and former president, Nigerian German Business Group, Joe Femi Dagoro. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it. Good to be here.
And that's our program today. You can watch a repeat broadcast at midnight and 6 a.m. Tomorrow morning. I am Precious Amayo. Thanks for watching.